I've been doing a lot of development work on what the new channel's going to look like, sort of look and feel, and things like I've been experimenting with the first 30 seconds and a summary of what's coming, just looking at ways of trying to make that introduction hook more effective. So yeah, playing with stuff.
You find, are you going and looking at other people's videos and how they do it?
Yeah, so there's this British woman who does an accounting channel, and I just find her presentations are really effective. She'll make a kind of a standout statement, and she puts the words of the statement up on the screen as well as she says it. You hear her say it and you see it, so it really underlines what she said, and she does that through the whole video. She's also very clear with her introduction in terms of we're covering the X, Y, and Z today, and you see right up front what you're in for. I think much more clear than I've ever been, trying to work on that sort of delivery. I did an interview with a friend of mine here face to face last Friday. Really good, lovely little interview. That's my first video for the new channel because it just sort of fits the ethos of the channel really well.
That's exciting.
So yeah, moving along, which is good.
So I take it you haven't cracked that book open yet because it just came in, right?
I've read Mr. Beast's forward, but that's as almost. I started into the introduction. That's right. That's as far as I've got.
Cool. So where do you want to begin for today?
I suppose we can look at stats. Stats have been pretty flat. Nothing much has happened really in terms of. I think my lowest video score, as in views, was the one I released last week. So that's my lowest, was 35. 35 views in a week. My highest was 229. So, and they're also kind of sitting there. Mostly they're double figures rather than triple. Nothing much is going on really as far as views.
What was the 229?
The 229 was called Beyond Literalism, the Spiritual Meaning of the Sabbath and Your Commute. 4.1% click-through rate, 5,000 impressions.
Did you get any comments on it?
Comments, what have we got? Yeah, got a couple. There's a bit of traction, bit of action on that one.
Well, it seems like, so you're starting this new channel. That book will help you assume a framework that I think you'll be able to feel confident in being led through. I know we had mentioned a little bit last meeting about some of the steps that Derral offers in order to think about what do I do first, especially if I have a new channel. How do I go about making decisions and thinking about things from a systems framework? We could talk a little bit about that as an add-on to your reading today. I'm just trying to think of what is the most valuable thing that we can offer today specifically for you, David.
Yeah.
And I have a question too. So, David, what evangelicals or deconstructed people do you watch on YouTube?
Yep. So, a guy called Chris Cornthwaite's one of the main ones. He's spoken to that guy Aaron Abke that you spoke to. So there's a connection there. There's a guy called Jim Palmer. I generally see him on Facebook though, not so much on YouTube.
Okay.
Christy Burke, you've reviewed one of her videos. Kelsey Malone. I did do a response to Christy Burke myself. That's some time ago. I'm also aware early on affiliate meetings, John made the comment that the church channel kind of is going to sit there and kind of grumble along and not really do a great deal. The hope is for the new channel to really kick off. So I'm not too worried about the numbers in a way. I'm experimenting with what we're doing there. It'll be interesting to see once that new channel gets going, how effective these strategies and things will be in terms of picking up an audience and moving on. One of the things John said, I remember, is we're kind of confusing the algorithm by offering quite different types of content. So I was publishing on a Monday morning, which was basically Sunday's service or address. I'm still doing those, but the Thursday direct to camera, I've stopped that, and that'll transfer to the new channel. That's the plan. And then I've got my interviews with people. I did that interview last week, which I put on the new channel because it just fits the space really well. And we'll see how that goes. So yeah, that's kind of the plan. We'll keep it going with the church channel, but by putting the other material across to a new channel, hopefully the algorithms will be a bit happier with us. We'll know where to send the two different types of content.
Yep, that makes sense.
But I didn't answer your question entirely, Curtis, which was,
Well, I just think since you know you want to go after those deconstructed people, could be that maybe it's a new channel thing, but it seemed like you'd want to try it, like a bucket you'll learn about in that book of responding thoughtfully to these channels that probably your audience, the audience you want, is watching.
So there's another one here called Godless and Grounded. Casey Malone, that was the one I was thinking of. Yeah, those are the ones that are sitting on my subscription.
Cool.
I like particularly CJ Cornthwaite's. He's really good in terms of, he's a very thoughtful guy. He's done a PhD in theology, and he talks about his whole journey of theological college caused me to deconstruct, and he's just really thoughtful in the way that he presents stuff. Relatively new channel too, and he's really taking off. So he's a good one to be working with.
And I feel like if he's a real thoughtful deconstructionist, and you are kind of a really thoughtful counterpart to that, like, oh, I totally get where you are and where you're coming from, and this is why, and I agree with you that I don't think God would be like this, but I sort of think it's like this. It could be that the audience that's watching that channel, because they're attracted to that kind of tone and that thoughtfulness, would also like to hear a theistic side of that same conversation. Especially if he's taken off now, you can try to catch some of that audience as he's building, put him in the thumbnail next to you, and a response to, people might be curious.
Yeah. And he's interesting in that he's someone who's deconstructed but remains Christian. And he talks about his reasons for that, whereas a lot of people like Christy Burke just go atheist. So it's a really interesting kind of community.
Well, and one of the things that'll, especially with the new channel, will help is what Derral calls recon, which is something that I've really come to appreciate more and more now. So he suggests that you could create a new YouTube account and treat that as the audience that you're trying to reach. So how would that audience search on YouTube for things that would be of interest to them in the kind of vein of what your channel maybe created content for? And to pay attention specifically to recent videos that are getting a lot of viewership and engagement, but don't necessarily have millions of subscribers. So you want the topic, the title, thumbnail, topic, to be the reason why that video has been so meaningful, as opposed to a channel that just has a lot of authority and a big network baked into it that would not necessarily be an indication that the topic and all that packages with the topic is the reason why it did well. And all of a sudden you can start to see these patterns of like, okay, I'm acting as my audience. I'm searching as my audience. This is what is, as me in this bigger group of people that are bound by the same interests. This is what we're all kind of resonating with. And you can pay attention to, like, does that creator have other adjacent content that's very similar to that one that's performed well in search results? That is what a bucket is. So essentially, when YouTube sees a video serving a group of individuals very effectively, it will then try to find the most closely related video that those users would want to watch next, right? So that's the utility of the suggestions or your homepage recommendations. And so when you create a video in a bucket from some of that recon that you did, maybe you find like there's a certain topic or a framing of an episode that's like really good, high engagement, high comments, not as many subscribers. And you try that as a bucket. You go to that topic, and what you want to do is, if that bucket idea, that topic works really well, then you create very similar constants in new episodes. I could actually just show you my notes on this.
Mhm.
This is worth, and we can revisit this later. So here's an example. So in this example that Derral gave to us, the bucket, which multiple pieces of content can be contained in, is a travel bucket. Now,
Mhm.
the title that has some variable in it is, I tried every seat on the most expensive blank. So you can see in this episode, it's
Mhm.
airline. If this video, this was an experimental video in a travel bucket, this video does well, then what you can do is add more variables to new episodes. So I tried every
Yeah.
seat on the most expensive car, boat, train, motorcycle, yada, yada.
Mhm.
And so what it does is it actually creates the conditions where YouTube is recommending more and more of your catalog of videos as what to watch next, because it's so closely linked to what a viewer loved about that one episode.
Mhm.
So the way you do your thumbnails, the framing of your title has a lot of consistency. And you can start to notice, like once you understand this, you'll start to see when you do your recon on YouTube that a lot of creators that are doing well actually employ these same things. You'll start to notice titles with a lot of similar words and a little bit of variability between episodes, and same with thumbnails. So these are all insights that can help you understand YouTube's kind of game and how it serves users. And you could take that into your own channel's content strategy as you look around as a reflection of your audience into what's working right now. So that's just one piece of gold out of many, many things you'll read in that book, and that we can talk about, as you get further.
Howard, I know you had a really successful video with telling the story about your brother.
Well, you mentioned that because we just ticked over 10,000 views on that.
Congrats.
Oh,
and
well done.
I'll give some credit to having promoted it, but I didn't promote it more than any other video. It just hit with people. And I'm already working on a follow-up on the
Perfect.
whole divine providence issue. It was related to the loss of my brother that I finally got divine providence, but it was 20 years later when I realized, if I could go back in time, I wouldn't, because then my children wouldn't exist. You'd think you'd realize that the day your child is born, but no, it took me 20 years. So I can see how that will also, because it speaks to, and where I'll go to it is, God isn't testing us. He doesn't throw crap at us to see how we'll respond. He makes sure that we continue to experience blessings in our lives in spite of those things. So I think that'll really resonate with people as well.
It's great. I think what this philosophy in the book would tell you to do is, make it, when you bring it out, it sounds like the content already resembles the first one, but have the thumbnail and the title like echo the first one, like have it pretty similar and similar pacing to the edit, and whatever you did on the first one, have people recognize it and the algorithm recognize it.
Yeah. Things I learned from the worst thing that ever happened to me.
Well, people are gonna find real inspiration. They're gonna connect to something that story's gonna impact. Who knows in what ways, all those people.
Yeah, Howard, that book, I don't know if you remember, the YouTube formula was the book I had recommended in our last meeting.
I downloaded the audio, and I've got to drive like 10 hours over the weekend, so I'm going to
Nice.
unfortunately, Deborah's going to have to listen to it.
She's going to be an expert on YouTube after the drive.
Yeah, that's right. She'll become my YouTube assistant.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, I think that, as Off Left Eye is experimenting with this more and more, as you both are building your awareness around these concepts, I see a natural utility in this meeting kind of becoming an inflection point for us to continue to talk about what's working in this system and what's not. We'll have a shared vocabulary and an understanding. It's not crazy concepts. You know, it's actually pretty straightforward, which is what I love. So I think all of us can engage in this in whatever ways feel reasonable and hopefully experience some good things out of it for growth. For today's focus, what else would be helpful to navigate together?
I'd like to show you actually the first hook of what I've been doing with my Sunday morning talks and get a sense from you if you think that's useful. Howard, what did you want to do? Anything in mind?
There's just two things that I'm wrestling with. We're coming to the end of the year. I'm starting to think about what next year is going to look like. I'm pretty close to having finished my year-long series on the book Heaven and Hell. I'm thinking about what's next. I could certainly use some feedback for that. I don't know that I want to dive into something. I thought maybe a nice transition would be to pick up the White Horse or something like that and just do a really short series, not a year-long series. The other thing I'm thinking about is offering some kind of like an interview thing. I know that there's value in that, but it's stepping into an area from a tech standpoint that I'm entirely ignorant of. I see you guys doing such a great job with the clips from the conversation that Curtis and Jonathan and I had. I'd love to try and create some kind of content like that where there's an interaction and a discussion, but I don't exactly know what that's going to look like. I don't know if that's going to be an online thing or it's me and a couple of guys or women sitting in the Swedenborg Center here in Sydney and recording something. So I don't know. I do know that we don't have a steward.
Right.
But we have enough tech that it wouldn't look entirely terrible.
We use StreamYard. I've used StreamYard a lot in my life, just at work, but also personally. And it's a pretty easy way of recording conversations on video. So over our live Q&As, go through that. StreamYard, one word. It's very simple to use.
My sense is that there's a lot of people who are running YouTube channels and things who rely on those sort of do-it-all softwares like StreamYard, where there would be a little bit of a learning curve, but it could even be the kind of thing that we coached you through a session with, you know, when we get Stuart on the line with you, and could pretty quickly, I think, put it in your hands to where you would feel confident to record remote interviews with that. Because I think there's a lot of people wanting to do what you want to do, and there's some pretty good technology for it.
Yeah, we use Restream, which does a similar kind of job, I think. So Howard, you know, I interviewed you on Restream back in February. Yeah, it's like a Zoom meeting, really, at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yep.
It's funny. I just typed in StreamYard and it's already asking me to allow access to my mic and camera. I got to close that down. I feel like it's going to watch me at night as I'm climbing into my bed.
It will.
Get a lot of views.
I don't know that I want those views.
Yeah. David, I know that you want to talk about hooks. Did you know as well that Google just released a massive new model in their ecosystem that can reason through video, which has never before happened in the AI world? It's Gemini 3. It's basically, if you're using Gemini, it should be the default at this point. You can ask it specifically to analyze things like your hooks. And when you have aspects of the YouTube formula that talk about that, upload a photo into Gemini, be like, I want you to think from this basis to analyze my hook. So that came out, I think, yesterday.
Oh, right. Okay. Right. Well, very, very recent. Yeah.
Yes.
Chris, help me understand what you mean by reason through video, meaning reason as if this would be part of a video, or share a video and have it analyze it?
The latter. So it'll actually watch your video frame by frame and then speed up. Like it'll pick apart your video, and it can watch it as if it were watching with, as like a human would. So it'll analyze your tone, your body language. It'll pull that transcript from the full episode and then watch the video look for specific things that you want it to address with like feedback, like your hooks, for example, or it could be like points of tension or drop, whatever it is that you want to look at. It'll actually, in a multimodal sense, meaning that it'll see it, it'll hear it, it'll read the transcript. All of those kind of senses that it has come to bear on being way more useful in providing feedback than any other AI model has so far. And it's a big deal. It's like this model is a really big deal in a lot of ways. One of them is what I just mentioned.
Okay, I've just pulled up Gemini. I can see it here. So I'll chuck a couple of my recent videos in and see what it comes up with.
Yep.
My brain has just exploded for the second time this week. Because earlier in the week, YouTube told me that they would soon be doing live dubbing. It'll be interesting to see if that has any kind of impact.
I'm paying attention to that too. I'm not very optimistic about that, but I hope it actually does do something.
I just hope nobody contacts me thinking I speak Italian. I speak American, British, and Australian, but I don't speak Italian.
All right, cool. So should we take a look at this hook you want to talk about, David?
Yeah, okay. So what I'll do, I'll share the one that's coming up. So this is what I've been doing, generally speaking.
It is a psalm of absolute assurance in faith. It has a connection to the life of Jesus. But what's the connection in this case? Those are the words of the devil to Jesus in the wilderness. And that puts quite a different spin on things, doesn't it?
And that's done. That's the hook. That's all I've got there as far as a hook goes for that one. And that just comes out of, I've been processing those using my Ellen the Evangelical, and that's what it said to do. So that's what I did, and then just dive straight into the psalm. The one thing I did wonder about as a way of enhancing that is putting some text up during the hook. So I'll just show you, and Howard, you'll be interested in this one. So here's the new channel. And if I go to studio and this is the new interview. So
I mean, I was shocked because like I've watched.
This is the hook on this.
Before. But I think what shocked me more is like how he was brutally killed.
Eventually that wears off.
Yeah, of course.
Eventually you get used to each other and the habits start to annoy rather than entice. All of my kids are great people and I have no doubt whatsoever that God loves them. I don't need them to be part of this church. The world will only be a peaceful place when every single one of us can defeat that enemy. Hi everybody, it's David here, Sweden.
And that's the hook on that one. So so Howard, you can see this is an interview I did a week ago. Natalia is a friend who's sort of had a loose connection with the church for a number of years, and she runs a channel called Misguided Pilgrim. So I did it. So that's going to be one of my first big videos on the new channel coming forward. You see that I put the text underneath where particular points and saying, this is what's coming up later. I think you guys do that, don't you? On Off the Left Eye, something like that. Have you put text under your hooks?
We have at times with the podcast, like we'll do that sort of emphasis. Like when we say something, the words will come up with it. Sometimes you can put just like a coming up tag on it, so no one gets confused. Like, is this the video starting or is this a hook?
Yeah.
So you'll sometimes do that just in the beginning.
Yeah, I did wonder about that as a possibility too. Anyway, I look over to you guys. That's what I've done with hooks and say preview of what's coming up to try and hold people's attention.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I'm like itching to see Gemini 3, what it thinks. This is not my skill set per se. Like this is more of I think Curtis is probably way better at this than I am.
Yeah. And what'll be interesting is I get my hooks from Gemini. So I basically draft the video grab the transcript, chuck that into Gemini and say, generate me 30-second hooks and see what it comes up with. And basically, I've just followed that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, it'd be nice to find, when I watch that, I like what it's saying. I do think you want to make sure everyone realizes it's a hook. So I think there's a couple ways you can do that. One is have a little coming up tag, just like bottom left, coming up, ...
Yep. Yep.
Another one is you can put some music on it, or have like a little letterbox sort of framing around it. Any one of those or any combination of those, I think just will make sure people, because people are used to those kind of hooks and they just want to be sure that that's what they're seeing. But yeah, I like the idea of, and with the hook for the interview, I noticed it just picked out, like, she said one and then you said 3 in a row of those. It'd probably be nice if like it went her, you, just give people like, oh yeah, that's what's coming up. So other than that though, I like kind of framing. I think that those were good, interesting points from both. And I like following those with sort of the title frame or the intro.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
So when you're thinking of upcoming content for this channel, do you want to try going through a little bit of a demo of that recon? Would that be helpful? Or do you feel like, really it comes down, like, part of this process is, what is the source of your decision making for what new content to make? Is it just that I'm going to think and guess what people want or what I want to speak to? Or is there another way that we could look into that may be more scalable?
Yeah.
So I think that's what recon represents. It's that shift from what is like the default for everyone, which is there are things that I feel like are important to share. I'm going to create content and hope that it reaches people, meaningfully. What Derral would say is the shift is get into the mind of the viewer, like really, really understand what the viewer needs, and then use that as a basis for how you think about creating content.
So basically, I've gone all out with Ellen, essentially. I've had long conversations, and these are all the result of conversations. Some of them are specific ideas. Some of them are logs of a whole pile of different ideas. Gosh, I mean, this is going back forever. It seems 27th of August. It's not that long ago, is it? But yeah,
it's a lot.
So that's what I've been doing, is sitting and chatting and working through the philosophy of the channel, what we're trying to achieve. That we arrived at the name because of what it represents. Are you familiar with the third place as a concept?
Yep.
Yeah. So, public space to talk, essentially. But then the third space is another one that's aligned to that. And that's about moving on. Well, moving between work and home is the simple one. So, being able to find the space to be able to kind of reset. Having had a stressful day at work, how do I not take all of those stresses with me? So in a deconstruction setting, it's about, I've had a stressful and a difficult and a traumatic relationship with the church. How do I move on? And what do I move on to? That's the ethos of the whole thing. And so we've based these discussions on that and what place Swedenborg might offer. What insights and assistance in terms of acknowledging the hurt, therapy in a sense, and moving on, processing all of the ideas, and what comes next. How does Swedenborg fit into the context of that? So, and this has been the outcome of these various ideas. So then let's talk about that in terms of the bucket and what you're talking about. Can you help me process through that?
Of course. Yeah. So I think what you're doing with Ellen is fantastic. I mean, you're a true cyborg, is what I would say. Like you're totally future man. So, for example, if you go back into that recon setting and, your understanding of your channel, and then who it is that you're trying to really reach, who you think your channel could help the most, acting as if you were that individual, coming up with those insights Ellen would be well served by having that basis. And also,
Yeah.
she'd be well served by understanding this system that Derral is teaching. So as you go through the book, you may, and I could certainly share my notes. That could be probably the easiest way to go about it. And I'm happy to do that. So if Ellen knows how to add value and then is fed insights that are relevant to this moment that you're in, from that recon, then I think you can really take what you've built and accelerate it. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Well,
it'd
if
be
you could,
her system prompt. It'd be tweaking her system prompt.
okay. So yeah, if you're able to send me your notes, that'd be fabulous.
Yes. Yep.
I'm willing to, of course. Yep.
I'm willing and able.
And yeah, let's see what happens with that.
So that's a really structured aspect. I think you'll find some of what you read in there is beyond what the book is talking about, and that's really the value of this course that we're in. So this should really aid you. And Howard, it's there for you as well if you ever
already snagged it.
Perfect. We're just beginning to move towards this system. It's what a lot of successful creators use as a framework for operating, but we'll apply and grow and test all this together. But I will say it makes a lot of sense, and I actually view YouTube entirely differently because of it, and I understand how YouTube works in a way I didn't before. And so you have more confidence that like there is a science that you can learn, and so that's represented in what you just have there.
I do notice things like creators copying each other's titles. That English accountant that I talked about, she had a title, I don't know what it was, 7 things people do who are retiring or something or other like that. Just because I'm the age I am, Howard, you're probably the same. You start thinking, oh, retirement. And then lo and behold, if there's another guy who has exactly copied the same title to try and ride the wave, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of that kind of stuff happening too.
My new channel is called Off the Left Arm.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's SEO. I mean, all SEO is high performing keywords that everyone uses up and what we call long tail keywords, which are essentially things like titles. No one reinvents the wheel. You lean into what works and try to gain market share in that kind of search or topic.
Now, I will say, as you mentioned SEO, I'm not doing a lot of it, I don't think. Do I need to be doing more than I am?
I think and Curtis, correct me if I'm wrong, what I gather from what we're learning is that you really want to optimize for how YouTube suggests videos and places your videos on people's home feeds over and above YouTube search, because the rate of growth will be way more sustained in that. And also, like, YouTube is lacking some data. Like with Google, anyone can learn how to rank well on Google if you have the right understanding. And that's because Google offers so much data. YouTube is lacking in that kind of breadth of data. And so to play the SEO game really well, you really need to know search volume, competition, and be able to look at locations in both of those categories. There's a lot of data that helps you make really good decisions that you don't necessarily have access to on YouTube. So I've always found that it's hard unless you're in like a totally original, non-competitive category. Curtis, what are your thoughts?
I don't think you need to worry about that. Play YouTube by YouTube rules. It is really its own kind of animal. There's a million experts about YouTube and what you should and shouldn't do, but plenty of them, you can follow their rules and get worse results. We found that one of the best out there is this YouTube formula. And so I think that that's plenty to be doing. And really that's just an addendum to it's just a way to upgrade the core of it, which is the content you make and the personality you are. So I'd say, yeah, there'll only be so far. Really what Derral was saying in this course is like, is your content good? Is your content good? Sure, some of it is this other stuff, but that's just getting people to it. It's just got to be something people want to watch. So in conclusion, I don't want either of you to feel overloaded by like There's so many things. Should we do this and this and this and this? I think it's enough. What you're doing is enough.
Okay.
I can only do one thing at a time, and that one thing takes me 6 months. So I've been watching from afar as David has developed a. Pam might actually be quite concerned about the relationship you have with Ellen, but I have been watching from afar as that relationship has been developing, and I admire it. But I need to spend some time, and I'm going to endeavor to do that. Hopefully, we'll be back together one more time, certainly before Christmas. But I'm going to endeavor to spend some time thinking about who my audience is. Not only who my audience is, but who I want my audience to be, who I think I'm trying to speak to. I sense that my audience might not necessarily be who I'm trying to speak to. I have some general ideas around that, but I'm going to give that some thought. And I'll report back to you. I've already made a note that that's one of my goals before we meet again.
That's great.
Yeah. So I'm slow to change, but I get there eventually. Ask Deborah.
Yeah. Well, the first section of that PDF you just downloaded it starts very quickly with that audience question. And his point is always look for the potential audience, not the audience you're currently reaching. Your growth is going to come from moving outside of that core audience and trying to create a growth loop with people that could benefit from your content that you could reach. And when you do that, you bring those potential viewers deeper into your ecosystem, and you're constantly reaching back out to more. And it's like it brings people at scale deeper and deeper into what you're doing.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else we can do for either of you before we go?
As you mentioned NCBS, I'll just take the opportunity. So we had a meeting with NCBS yesterday about developing the worldwide contacts page. So there's a bit of energy behind that, and we're pushing that one forward. They're very keen to have you guys, Curtis and Chris, involved in some way, but I've just said, you're busy doing your own thing and you're supportive of the idea. The coffee to cloud description is a good one. Sorry, the cloud to coffee. I like that.
I have meetings with Steve. We're working together on an AI project, so we're doing a lot of planning, and he's mentioned that a few times. So I have to talk with some other stakeholders about it, but it's a great idea.
I just keep assuring people, Curtis and Chris are happy to hear it's going on, and you guys are busy, so that's fine. Yeah,
thanks, David. I have a meeting with Steve, I think, next week, so hopefully I can get caught up fully, and Curtis and I can chat about some of those things.
Cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay.
All right.
Gentlemen.
All right, guys.
Have a great day.
Thanks.
And you too.
Bye.